Hello, beautiful community. Let's talk a little bit around whether Mr. Surovikin was involved in Mr. Prigozhin's coup, mutiny, inadvertently created revolutionary situation. We will have a separate conversation about which one of these it's most helpful to describe it as being, maybe tomorrow even. But for now, I want to look at the issues that a New York Times piece raises that deals in this issue of supposedly US officials being briefed by the CIA that Mr. Surovikin may have been involved. I think we need to be very careful about how we handle this to do what? To protect our democracy. So we'll talk about that. But just a couple of general remarks about this crisis in Russia. Two things are worth saying before we get to the Surovikin issue. One, I have never seen Putin that rocked. I mean, he is absolutely rocked off his feet. I mean, he's gone. He's gone. I mean, he is nowhere near even beginning to recapture his equilibrium. Absolutely shot by this process. You know, you wonder if, and I think the answer might actually be no, but you wonder in this situation if he could develop a little bit of empathy for the far worse situation that Zelensky went through as a result of Mr. Putin's disastrous invasion. But I don't think he's going to go there. But that sense of urgent precarity that has gone right through his body is so palpable that you wouldn't be surprised if he had some kind of breakdown looking at how he's been experiencing this. He's trying to cover all of this up. The second thing is about his approach with Prigozhin, which is not to go for the mutiny, but to go for Prigozhin's finances and the financing of Wagner. And people have said, well, that means Russia's taking responsibility for things now that look very unlovely that it tried to not formally take responsibility for before. But the point is, it's essential for Putin in his mind, and he's probably right about that, to demystify Prigozhin and cast him not as the bogus picture that Dugin wants to paint of Prigozhin, at least the picture that Dugin wanted to paint of Prigozhin before the mutiny. Because Dugin went, because he's such a profound philosopher, he's a very consistent thinker, he went in 2 months from saying that Prigozhin is the spiritual leader of the nation, roughly, to saying that he is a Western asset out to undermine Russia's historical destiny and the Russian state. To the NYT piece now. And I've communicated this with you really via a Twitter thread situation. Again, I hope that's okay. So there is an NYT piece, I'll link it up below, which says that Surovikin, let's put it softly, may have played a part in the mutiny. Also say US officials briefed by the CIA. Now there are two issues that arise here. Is this piece trustworthy? No. Do we have a problem with the, or at least no is the presumption that works until something else comes up? Do we have a problem with the politicization of intelligence that affects our democracies? God, yeah. Let's talk about it a bit. Russia experts are skeptical that Surovikin was involved, but let's allow that he may have been. And lots of people and all the typical characters came out saying they were skeptical about that, from Sam Green to Mark Galeotti. There's a long Twitter thread by Jeremy Morris about this. There is general skepticism about this. But let's allow that Surovikin may have been involved, because quite frankly, I don't have any grounds to rule that out. not in the sense that if I don't know, nobody knows, but I just in this case mean I don't know. Most people making claims about Surovikin's involvement don't have the necessary knowledge to judge. They have 10% of my knowledge, and I don't have enough knowledge. The NYT piece itself and the history of familiar intelligence community friendly journalism in the United States especially does not inspire confidence. It is possible that the claim in the piece is true, that Surovikin was part of it, but that the piece itself is not truthful in spirit, because there is no way to know, or none of the people in that chain that is being turned to for enlightenment know. And the experts, the independent experts quoted in the piece, are good. But one person quoted is McFall, and he says it just looks dodgy. So maybe, that doesn't get one far. That combination of thoughts. A piece like this could indeed play into Putin's paranoia, because Putin is going to be paranoid. And we need to watch this. Which people are we not seeing in public for a while, and where are they, and what assumptions can we make? So we absolutely need to follow. Putin will be on a paranoid quest as a result of this. There's no doubt about that, but we need to follow how it looks. And it's possible that Putin's paranoid quest might outrun reality, might outrun, and go for people who actually had no direct connection to this. So this sort of stuff feeds into Putin's paranoia, but while gaining an advantage abroad by stoking Putin's paranoia, metaphorically speaking, we could damage ourselves at home. Politicizing intelligence in highly polarized societies with declining trust in institutions is dangerous. Here are some democratically friendly principles about how the intelligence community and public discourse best interact. Democracies pressuring intelligence agencies to massage assessments and find things for political purposes is a dangerous business. Journalists, in turn, need to understand when they're dealing with information designed to trick them. Journalists also need to understand that if they are uncritical of politicized intelligence, then the work they produce on the basis of it will likely deepen polarization and toxicify further our culture wars. Citizens are in a difficult position because they need to avoid falling into the two traps of being a useful idiot. One kind of useful idiot trap uncritically buys politicized intelligence, accepts it. And in recent history in the West, certainly in Britain and the United States, this approach has led to blaming democratic problems on foreign interference, domestic problems on foreign interference. The United States has experienced a catastrophe of this kind in recent years, and so has, to a lesser extent, Britain. The degree to which Russian interference has been held by many people to have explanatory value in the rise of anti-democratic sentiment in the United States, in the rise of exclusionary populism, in the rise of toxic polarization, in the loss of trust in democratic institutions. The degree to which that has been blamed on malign foreign interference is not just preposterous, it's also devastating to American democracy. And what you've got to understand here is that in the 2016 election, the Russians interfered, right? They interfered. We need to explain how they interfered. We need to explore the impact of that interference. But it's important that if that interference is a 1% impact, we don't say it's a 6% impact. That if it's a 6% impact, we don't say it's a 16% impact or a 66% impact. And the real crisis here is that we become a useful idiot by simply acting in a way that is functional to the Russian interference, because the point of the Russian interference is that it makes a 0.5% impact. We freak out about it, and our freak out about it brings it about that it has a 50% impact. That is Mr. Putin's aim with this interference. So we've got to be very careful about not becoming the useful idiot here, and be serious and say we should be concerned about Russian interference. We should recognize not just what they are doing, but the principles of what they're doing, which is the destabilization of Western democracies, the intensification of all internal conflict in Western democracies, and the encouragement into reality of what for Putin is anyway inevitable, which is our democracies grounding into some kind of a toxic stasis and melting down. So the people in the United States who were taking because the minimalist account of Russiagate is right, but the maximalist accounts of Russian interference were servicing Mr. Putin's attempt to disrupt American democracy. Right? Now, this is not directly connected to this article because this is simply about speculation about what's happening in Russia, but the pattern of politicization of how we approach intelligence is a very important pattern that also goes to the core of what I've just been saying. So you don't want to simply be a citizen who buys it all uncritically, but you also don't want to be a citizen who dismisses it all uncritically. You can't say, well, there's something suspicious in the NYT and it doesn't serve me anyway, so the NYT is a terrible institution. No. How is the NYT not serving America? I'm just using that country as an example. Talk about other countries. How is the NYT not serving America? What are the 7 things the NYT needs to change to serve America? Right? So this is not, oh, we're going to jump up and down and join the intellectual dark web and celebrate how institutions have failed and we'll do better. Once institutions fail, nothing will help. No gatherings on the internet of 7 or 8 interesting characters trying to generate discourse together with friends in Silicon Valley. None of that will help. Moreover, the intellectual dark web itself failed more than mainstream institutions have failed to keep its own rudder. So there we go. So we cannot give up on institutions. And we cannot give up on truth and truthfulness. And so uncritically believing politicized intelligence is a bad idea, but uncritically dismissing everything journalists and our intelligence community say is in fact in the end a way of giving up on trusting anything. And once you give up on trusting anything, you give up on trusting truth. Once you give up on truth, because democracies are tethered to the practice virtue of truthfulness, you give up on democracy. 2, Lots of love, rant over.